Proximity bias. What is it? How can you be aware of it? And how can you use it to your advantage as a leader? Proximity bias is when you have a tendency to favor or to give more opportunity or to have positive impression of those who are closer to you physically than the one who are not. In the workplace, this means that you are favoring people that you see more, maybe with you in the same office, they sit next to you, than those who are working remotely. This is something that I first learned about was at Meta when we were during the performance cycle, where the HR was really stressing on this because we have almost half of the team working remotely, and they wanted to make sure that we are aware of this so we don't think of those who are working remotely less in terms of the performance and the contribution, especially if they are introverts and they are not vocal about their work. In your workplace, you're gonna find yourself naturally inclined towards this. Usually manifests itself in a form of, if you have a quick ask, you might tend to ask people around you in the office because it's a quick, and you don't give the same opportunity to the ones who are working remotely. So be very mindful of this. Instead of doing this, catch yourself and maybe put it on communication channel like Slack or any alternative, and wait a little bit. And it's okay until everybody see it and we give everybody equal opportunity to participate in this contribution. On the other hand, this is something especially you gotta be very conscious about when you're dealing with introverts, because they are not usually very comfortable about talking too much, especially if they are working remotely. You might find them very quiet. They don't talk a lot about what they do and the effort or maybe the result that they are achieving. So you gotta do a bit extra when it's come to the introverts, and especially those who are working remotely. How can you do that? During your one-on-ones, maybe start with your one-on-one of asking them to give you brief updates and highlights of what they have done. At least that give you an idea on the effort they put, regardless if there is a result or no. That's one. Second, try to encourage them to speak often, ask questions on the communication channels to their colleagues, and maybe also seek feedback from colleagues, and try to pay extra attention to the project that they deliver to make sure you balance out this. And if you have any concerns, be very vocal about it and speak with them. Tell them, look, I don't feel like I have enough visibility on what you are doing. Let's work out a way for us where you are comfortable with doing, and at the same time give me the information that I need to make sure that I'm aware of what you do and your contribution, and I don't unfairly judge your work. So that's one of the tips that maybe you should consider when it's come to dealing with introverts and even extroverted. It does work out with everybody, especially those who are not very vocal about what they do. It's just a normal bias. We all have our own bias. So why I'm saying this because everybody have it. People around you, your leaders, your colleagues, your peers, your executive leadership team, everybody that you work with have a version of it. Some are conscious about it, some are not. And you should take this into consideration and try not to put yourself in a position where tendency of proximity bias can impact you negatively. How can you do that? Being very vocal about what you do. In your one-on-ones with your manager, start with telling them a little bit on the key achievements, key highlights. Even if something that you are working on and you're finding it a little bit challenging and you put some effort, make sure that you are taking control and in establishing good visibility with your manager. That's number one. Number two, in terms of the organization and the team as well, try to find the framework that work for everybody, suitable for the culture of your work, to communicate what you work on. So people have no doubt what you are doing, especially if you are working remotely. Publishing weekly report. This could be on Slack, maybe weekly updates or monthly updates, what you have been doing, a result that you have achieved. And it could be also just verbal updates, right, in the hands, in the team weekly updates, in the company updates. Take a slot and talk about what you guys have been doing, what your team have been on, what you personally have been trying to achieve. That's another way of doing it. Another good way of doing it, and also have multiple benefits, is to share your work while in progress for feedback. When you do this, it gives people full visibility on the impact that you are still cooking, that you still haven't finished yet, and also give them the ability to feel that he can contribute and give you also another pair of eye in case you miss something, or maybe you're missing some context, or maybe they have any suggestions to improve. To summarize, it's a human nature. You gotta deal with it. One, be very conscious about it as a leader. Two, use it to your advantage and make sure you are not negatively judged with it. If you are introverts, if you're working remotely, this is very critical to you. And also, when you share your successes and failures, I don't think people will think of you as a person who brags. Will think of you as a person who's just very vocal, very visible. Leverage these two, and these gonna boost your career. And make sure also as a leader you don't unfairly judge your team, and make sure that everybody is treated equally and judged equally in their performance based on what they do, not based on what they say they are working on. Thank you so much.